Hello, visitors to and denizens of the YouTubeverse. I'm John, your social hermit in the woods, and in this video I wanted to cover making simple flour tortillas. Why tortillas? Well, the quick answer is they're essential if you're going to make grouse tacos, which are absolutely delicious and probably deserve their own video at some point. They're also good for things like breakfast burritos or for wrapping up a grilled sausage. From a practical standpoint, tortillas are actually very nice because you can make them and then just stack them with, as I'll show you in this, stack them like in a Ziploc bag with some parchment paper or wax paper in between the layers, and they freeze very nicely. They're very space efficient in the freezer, and then when you want some, you just pull out just the number you want, put them in the microwave for 30 seconds, and they're warm, pliable, and fresh. So it's something that's easy to do every 2 to 4 weeks, depending on how many you go through, and then you can have them on demand at any time. I'll give the full recipe at the end, but in the meantime, I'm just going to walk you through how I do them. And although the whole process takes some time, there's a phase where you let them sit for a while. The actual hands-on time is pretty short, and this will be a pretty short video. All right, so the ingredients are quite simple. We're going to take 3 cups of flour. One teaspoon of salt. Okay, we got some lumps in there. Let's break those up so we don't end up with concentrations of salt. So 1 teaspoon of salt and 1 teaspoon of baking powder. Sprinkle that across. All right. And now we can just take our fork and blend all that. Okay, once that's well blended, you want to make yourself a little bit of a divot in the middle, and you're going to pour in there 1/3 cup of some sort of oil, olive oil or sunflower oil, something with a mild taste. So 1/3 cup of oil. Pour that in. And 1 cup of warm water. Pour that in there as well. And now you just take your fork and blend all that in. You'll notice I use a really large bowl for this. I do all of my breads and pastries and stuff in a really large bowl. For breads, it means I can actually do the kneading and things right in the bowl, and I don't have to make a mess on the table. It's very convenient that way. All right, so we're just going to blend this in, stirring from the outside, scraping the walls so we don't end up with dried, crusty flour. And when it gets to a certain mostly combined texture, then you're going to want to go ahead and put your hands in there and use those to do the rest of the work. We're getting about to that stage now. All right, so that's about as good as you're going to get with a fork. Now we go in, and what I'm doing is just taking the light powdery stuff, mixing it in on top, squishing in the more solid rubbery parts, and trying to get it all as homogeneous as possible. Okay, it really only takes about 2 minutes of kneading to get this to the right texture. You'll notice it's not sticking to your hands, but it's still flexible and pliable. It's a very nice dough to work with. Okay. Now, for your next step, you are going to want a surface to put them out on. You can either flour your table, or if you have one of these silicone baking sheets, that works well. And put a little tiny bit of flour on that just to keep it from being sticky. So spread a little bit of flour on there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to split this into 16 portions. So easy way to do that is it's pretty easy to divide it more or less equally in half. Okay. And then I take that half and I try to squeeze it out into a kind of a baguette kind of shape. And again, break that in half. And take each of those in turn into halves. So and then finally halves again. There you go. So with each of these 16 things, get them into a ball and then flatten them about that big, a little bit bigger than the size of a toonie. Okay, and just lay those on your sheet here. Okay, and just repeat that with the rest of the dough until you've got 16 little flattened chunks. Okay, once you've got all 16 of them squished out to that size and sitting here on their little floured sheets, you're going to want to let them rest. Now, I don't exactly know what that does since it's not a yeast reaction, but instructions I have say anything from minimum of 15 minutes up to about 2 hours. I usually give them about a half an hour to an hour. So you cover them up for a little nap, and it's a good time to go refresh your coffee. And we'll come back in an hour and carry on with the next step. Okay, so we've let these sit for something between the 15 minutes and 2 hours. This is about 45 minutes for this batch. And you can unveil them. They don't look any different than they did before. And a good thing to do with that time while you're waiting is to go ahead and cut yourself some pieces of parchment paper or wax paper. In addition to that, you're going to need a rolling pin. Hey, Mom, if you're watching, you might recognize this. And a little bit of flour and a surface to roll them out on, and a plate to collect the rolled pieces. So let's go ahead and roll these out. So you're going to try to make each one more or less circular and more or less kind of 6 inches, 15 centimeters across, and it's definitely a bit of an art form to get them circular. I don't think I really have it down yet, but I'm slowly getting better. Okay, and so just roll them. That one's actually coming out not too bad. And they won't be perfect circles. You're not a factory, but okay, there you go. Now, if you stack these just on each other as is, they'll stick together. So what you want to do is you want to pick that up, plop it on your plate, set a piece of paper over it, and then proceed with the next one. So I'm going to go ahead and roll the rest of these out, and then we'll carry on with the next step. Okay, so that was really the time-consuming part of all this. It takes me about 30 minutes to roll those all out, which obviously I didn't want to subject all of you to watching the whole thing. The process is the same for all of them. One hint is, when does it need more flour on the rolling surface? It's if the tortilla starts sticking to your rolling pin, put a little bit more flour there, flip it over, and then it won't stick and it'll roll out. Okay, so now you've got your 16 flattened out, ready to cook tortillas, separated by parchment paper. You got your spatula, you got a place to collect them. And the other thing you're going to need is, you're going to need a large, preferably non-stick frying pan under sort of medium heat. So let it warm up for a little while. So drop one in and then keep your eyes on it. It should take somewhere between a minute and a half roughly to cook the first side. You see how these bubbles are starting to show up here and here and here? That's a good sign. You want to see those, but they'll need to get bigger than that before the other side is nice and toasty. So all looking real good there. You can see why it's important to use a non-stick frying pan for this. If you use one where these stick, it's going to be a big disaster. So not really an ideal one for anything other than a non-stick frying pan. Okay, nice big bubbles showing up here. This one's getting close. Give it another 10 or 15 seconds so it's not underdone. Let's take a peek under there now. Yes! See how we just get some nice little toasty areas? Okay, and we'll give this about 30 or 45 seconds on the other side. And once it's done, take it and we take it over to our done stack, reusing our parchment paper, and there it is. Nice brown cooked bits. Move another piece of parchment paper over, grab another tortilla, and into the pan. And then you just repeat this process. And there we go, a beautiful stack of the finished product. Look at that, nice photogenic one on top. They're of course delicious, warm, fresh out of the pan like this. I might have to do a cheese quesadillas for lunch, in fact. If you are going to store these, freeze these, you do want to let them cool completely, and they insulate themselves pretty well in this stack, so leave it sitting out here for at least a good hour or so, and then you can just lift the whole stack, complete with the parchment or the waxed paper, slide it into a large Ziploc bag, seal that, and put it in the freezer. Then it's very easy to simply pull out as many as you want, frozen, put them in the microwave on a plate, usually about 30 seconds, and they are good to go. Well, I hope that looked good and gave you some ideas, and maybe will encourage you to go ahead and make these yourselves instead of having to go out and buy them. And with that, this is John, your social hermit in the woods. Until next time.